All right, welcome everybody. Let's start our regular meeting for the City Council of the City of Perry, May 20th, 2024. Call our meeting to order and have roll call.
Coffee.
Here.
Bledsoe.
Here.
Marshall. Davis.
Here.
Coldard.
Here.
Rupp. Williams.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Wortham.
Here. All right, we've got quorum. So today our invocation will be by Pastor Bill Spears. Yes, sir, it is. All you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Let's pray. Father, we just thank you so much for your love and your mercy, God, and I thank you, Lord, for these men and women that take their time out to spend the time that they do on this city council, Lord. I just pray that you would use them and bless them, Father, in many ways. I just pray that you would give them wisdom this evening as they go throughout the city business, God, and just guide them to lead this city to become bigger, better, and stronger, Lord, and to be united, Lord, in what we do. Father, again, I just thank you for all that you are, and I thank you again for this gathering tonight, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bill. And like I said when I texted you, we like to invite the pastor to kind of tell us what's happening with your church, your congregation. Got anything happening?
Well, the most exciting thing, and it's really one of the best kept secrets, which shouldn't be a secret, is there are 3 men basically in our church that do a community garden. And it's in the lot that's just south of Easy Drill. I don't know if you've seen it as you go out 86. That's actually for everybody. It's a different style. These men and some other people plant everything and do everything. And I'm getting a little more tech savvy, so now I am putting on the bulletin board when things are ready to be picked. So that's for everybody. And I put that on the bulletin board here a couple weeks ago, and we didn't know. So the advertising for that, and that's really a great thing. And we're always excited. We have a men's breakfast the first Saturday of every month, and we started about 4 years ago with 6 people, and now we're up to about 30 men from all churches.
Oh, wow.
Every first Saturday, and that's really good. We're getting ready to have, in 2 weeks, we're starting Vacation Bible School in the evening. So, summer's a busy time, but it's just exciting for us. So, but I'm glad you gave me the opportunity, because to get that out there about the community garden, I mean, I don't know. I don't want any credit for that. I don't like gardening. I go out and help a little bit. But this year they've expanded it. There's 2 spots. And if you can think of it, they're going to do it. They're going to have cantaloupe and watermelon. They're going to have pumpkin this fall, which we've never done before. So again, thank you for the opportunity and being able to share that.
Yeah. Do they take volunteers or?
Yeah, they take volunteers. The men that are doing it are they're older, and people are trying to reach out to them on Facebook. They're on Facebook, but they don't really answer them. So it's a learning process yet. We've done this. I think this is our 3rd year, and it's getting bigger, but getting to how it works, because some people want to go out and plant their stuff, but that's not how this one works. But yeah, if you want to contact the church, I will do my best to get you, if anybody wants to volunteer, in contact with phone numbers and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started here with item number 1, our consent agenda. Sure, yeah. Go on ahead. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
Backwards on me.
Do we need to note that it's been changed?
We probably can. There was a scrivener's error, and it was pointed out to me, and the minutes were changed where Scott had abstained. I forgot to actually put that in. But it was fixed.
Motion to approve with amended changes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
And Coffee.
Yes.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Coldard.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Wortham.
Yes. All right, let's jump on down to item number 5. Proclamations, commendations, reports, and inquiries by the governing body. Do we have any proclamations or commendations?
I just want to mention that, we did not mention it last week, but our city attorney got recognized here recently
Right.
as an outstanding municipal lawyer. So I wanted to say thank you, Bryce, for all you do.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So how does it feel?
Oh, old. I mean, I think it was like an honorary Oscar award.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but it was really, really nice.
Well deserved.
And it was given to me by, who announced it was David Weatherford, who's the gentleman that comes with Bill Tackett and teaches that course. He's kind of a guy that does multiple cities over on the east side of Oklahoma. So he's a super guy.
Well deserves it. Great. Congratulations to you, Bryce.
Yeah.
All right. Council reports. Ward 1. Scott, Gloria?
Yes, I do have some things that was brought to my attention. On the lot of the tornado sirens, I should have given this last time, but I wasn't here, but they mentioned, I had several people ask me if we were going to have an all clear. We used to always blow the sirens and then have an all clear signal, and evidently we didn't this time. And I lived pretty close by and I didn't hear one, but it seemed like people would really desire that. And then someone asked if we were working on the budget, and I said yes, and they suggested, I had one individual that just loves Perry, and then one that is a business owner that has potted plants and flowers in front of their businesses. And they felt like if we could put in our budget to maybe have the ability to water those flowers around the square, maybe more businesses would put out flowers and potted flowers rather than having to carry water to them. And they thought that would enhance our square. And I thought that was really kind of a good idea if there's some way to do that. And then I just had one concern about the ambulance service, but I think that's been taken care of with that individual one. And I appreciate what you put in the letter that went out in our statement. Was it the statement? Anyway, you got a letter and you mentioned what they were doing with that, and I appreciate what you put in there.
All right. Scott? All right. Austin, Joe?
Nothing new this week.
Nothing new? No? Nothing from Ward 3?
Nothing from Ward 3.
Yeah, they're gone. All right.
They're Ward 2.
All right. Derek, Sammy?
I would like to thank the city of Perry for allowing us to subsite, sorry, I said us, for allowing subsite utility inspection team to do some training and testing in some of the lateral lines. So we did that a month ago, and then we did it again last week. I met with the city manager and Vernon, I can't think of his name. Anyway, I met with them today and gave them our findings, and we're going to chase some different avenues to maybe do some fixing on one of them. So otherwise, that's all I have.
Nice. I had somebody come up to me and ask about the alley behind Foster's and PJ's Plumbing, right back there. They said there's a lot of people that cut through there and drive through pretty quick. You know, they had suggested maybe speed bumps, but they said that, you know, even Holly, her that paints.
McHugh's.
Yeah, you know, she's had her scaffolding and she's been painting clipped by cars as they're going through, driving pretty quick.
Okay.
And so, and you know, people use that alley to kind of cut across when there's a train stuck or something. And so they just said that they've noticed a lot of people kind of come through there pretty quick.
I was going out of it onto Cedar one day, and a car turned off of Cedar into it and almost hit me. I mean, they were really going fast.
Right.
Maybe we should consider it a one-way.
Or that, yeah. I don't know.
We've had the This conversation come up before, and I don't remember what the outcome was. I wish I did.
Oh, okay. Do you know how long ago that was?
It was a while back.
Was it a while back?
Seemed like there was something that,
Well, anytime you improve it, and we improved it, I mean, that's a really nice alley.
Yeah.
We
Right.
put a really nice paving down there, you know, and it's smooth and there's not potholes and people move fast. So
Mhm.
perhaps we need to put up some signs
Mhm.
or, you know, those bumps.
Right, or something, yeah.
I mean, those work really well to
Mhm.
slow people down.
it was tight.
Yeah. That's just something I had somebody bring up to me this last week.
Yeah, somebody brought it up to make it one way.
Mhm.
That might have been what it was.
That's what it was. And
Gotcha.
maybe Gordon was in favor of that. He was either in favor or opposed because that's when it was.
I know he wanted us to turn this alley back into two-way on this side.
Right. Okay, so that's what it
But-
was.
I bet
Right.
speed bumps would work.
But, yeah, speed
Better.
bump.
I put it on my one-on-one career. I'll talk to him about speed bumps and we'll get some options. As far as the one-way, two-way, I know I've had some people reach out and say they want to change this one right here to two-way. And we've looked at that and seen that it's wide enough to be two-way. So we can look at options there in terms of keeping them both two-way, but maybe putting speed bumps to slow people down.
So, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was something that Gordon had a part in getting done, but also gracefully came back later and said that probably wasn't actually a necessary change. So
Right.
Yeah.
he had said, I think it was after he left being mayor, he said, yeah, we can turn that back. I just
Right.
never had that conversation.
All right. Committee reports. I guess with that, has there been anything to update since last week from anyone?
For the hospital, we went to the bid meeting,
Oh, okay.
Just had the bid opening,
opening, I mean.
and they're still gathering that information.
Mhm.
Okay, so they haven't closed on the
Yeah,
bid
they sent
yet?
an email saying they're still gathering.
Okay. All right. Nothing
But they
else?
did tell me that it wasn't more than the 30%.
Oh, okay.
So we ought to check that fact tomorrow.
Mhm.
And if it's not, and we confirm that, if it's not, then we need to move forward and do that PO on the CT scan. Yeah,
Well, I think they still have some numbers that they have to get with that, with the bid opening. There was
okay.
a few they didn't get bids for,
Right.
and a few
I haven't really
So-
found.
subs that they didn't get bids for, and then there was some that they was gonna quantify whether they were having good bids because there was such a large difference in price.
There was a lot, though. Well, I felt like there was a lot of bids, didn't you? Mhm.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people there.
All right. Well, let's go on to item number 6, city manager remarks.
Yeah, I have a couple of things. The first is I had council members and staff reaching out to me about the AC unit at the fire station that's gone out. It's going to be about $10,500 to repair that. Not repair, replace. So they haven't been out. They've looked at it in terms of repairs, and it can't be repaired anymore. They just don't have the parts anymore. So we've allocated funds for that will come out of this next year's capital budgets, but that can be utilized immediately so that the firefighters and EMS team can have air conditioning during the summer. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the flowers in the square. Gloria, was that you who brought that up?
I brought up the fact that they'd like to have watering,
Mhm.
ways to water it, maybe by request, you know. Not everybody had it, but if they requested it, we could consider it.
Yeah, I will say a business owner has reached out to me and offered to put in sprinkling systems for all those boxes. So we're working through that and what that will look like and how that can work. But just to kind of give you an update. So
Great.
that was quick, right? I didn't even need 2 weeks.
Good job.
The last update I had was for a council member who's not here, so I'll just reach out to her individually. So, in terms of my remarks, I think I'll keep it to that because I'll have some things to say about the budget coming up. So.
All right. Thank you, Nate. Item number 7, our CFO.
It's me. You could meet like 3 meetings in a row, I feel like.
Yeah.
All right, you've got April financials in front of you. So April looked pretty good. Cash changed at about 1% from where we were in March. Still pretty healthy as far as what our unrestricted cash is versus our restricted cash. We know that the most significant impact in our general fund is our sales and use tax. Month to date, for the month, this is what was deposited in May, we were down 21%, use tax down 2%, for a total of 18% down. But thank goodness, we budget conservatively on those things. We've been able to keep a relatively consistent budget. Because year to date, we're still 10% down on sales tax, which is exactly what we budget down. So we know that, we expect it, and are able to absorb some of that fluctuation, which is good. As far as the profit and loss, our budget to actuals on the general fund itself, 88% is kind of where we should be, 82 to 88, that's kind of where we should stick right now. Everyone's kind of hitting that. There are some expenses that have gone over. We've had some changes in employment, payouts of severance, those sorts of things, which are kind of driving expenses up a little bit. We will have some year-end true-ups at the June meeting, just to make sure that we've got everything in compliance. Because as we talk about budget at this meeting, our budget basis, our compliance is based upon the department level. So that's really where we want to check to make sure that we are meeting our budget to actuals there. General fund itself, 10 months in, $119,000 net income. That leaves us about 8 months of cash on hand. We're consistent with budget as far as our expectations, with a little bit of overage and some FEMA reimbursements, which has helped create a little bit of excess there. Municipal authority, $2.9 million in operating profit. That's right where we would like to be. Right now, we know that electric should be coming on pretty significantly. It's only at 70% of revenues right now. That will be as temperatures continue to rise. We'll see that number jump up a little bit. And everything else looks pretty good, relatively in line. $683,000 net income, mainly from that OWRB piece. Leaves us about 10 months of cash on hand. So April, pretty normal, despite the sales tax hit. Questions on any of that? Okay.
All right, thank you, Meredith. Okay, item number 8. Here we go. Presentation of the proposed fiscal year 2024-2025 budget for the city of Perry and its component units by the CFO and city manager to the governing body to provide direction as deemed appropriate.
Okay, I'm really excited for this. As mentioned, this is my 2-month mark today. So I haven't been here a super long time, and I'm excited for the direction that you council members can give during this presentation. I'm going to preface it by saying that being the 2-month mark, I haven't done a few things with this budget that I would have liked to do, that I'm planning on doing this next year. One of those things is a budget retreat. So just so everyone knows, although we didn't do that this year, I'm planning on having one in February for the FY26. So we can get an early start on that. We can get the feedback that you're going to give us over the next couple weeks, only several months in advance. I'm also planning on moving the dates up in terms of, instead of doing it all within the last month, I'm moving all the dates at least 1 month in advance so that we have extra time to really go through this process. Meredith is going to talk a lot about the details of the budget in terms of summaries and also the budget structure change, which you have in front of you, which is this itemized. So we'll talk a little bit about those things. I'm going to give kind of an overview of what things are going to look like. So today is our giving the electeds the budget. And that is required by Oklahoma law. We'll have our public hearing on June 3rd. That's going to be advertised in the next week. And so that June 3rd meeting will really dive into the capital project side of things. I have planned for the department directors to come and present to the council on each one of the items that they've actually put in for their capital projects. So they're going to talk about why they want that, what they hope from it, and what the alternatives might be, to give some options, and then get feedback from you guys. So I think that'll be really beneficial for us as staff as well. So that gives a little bit of an idea going forward what kind of I'm hoping for and expecting from this budget season. In terms of this actual budget, there's a couple of things I wanted to touch on. The first is, so like Meredith mentioned before.
Are we looking at yours?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the City of Perry, Oklahoma. No, sorry, the typical one.
Okay.
Not right. Looking at the highlights for discussion. So in these highlights, Meredith mentioned that we like to budget really conservatively. I love that approach of looking at the 90% current year projections and basing our budget on those projections, right? So that we have that 10% leeway to play with. We do have in our ordinances, and this is that second bullet point, that CPI rate increase. That is in ordinance 17-221. The idea behind that is, as probably many of you know, but maybe some don't, as the CPI increases, as things get more expensive, we have to supplement those prices that we're paying with increased rates. And so what the past council did, and I don't know when this ordinance was passed, but they basically said rather than evaluating that every year, we'll just make it an automatic thing that happens. I don't know how council feels about that. I think the other approach is we do studies every year. We get studies from OMPA, we get studies from the Rural Water Fund, and we can present those to you and say, hey, based on these studies, this is where we stand as a city compared to other cities, compared to the market, compared to what we're spending versus what we're making in revenues. And based on those three things, these are the recommendations we have in terms of increasing rates or keeping them the same or even lowering. So those are really kind of the two options I see as a manager, and I would love to hear your feedback on what you think about those. So maybe let's pause in this and maybe I can get that feedback right now.
I would say one of the things that we've talked about in the past is how our rates, take our, I think it's our water, that doesn't cover its expenses. Kind of revalue, looking at our different rates that we have and seeing how they balance with their associated expenses. To me, it doesn't make sense to have like water operating at a deficit, but then electric at such a high profit.
I think the answer to one of your questions was it was right before COVID when that ordinance was passed. I believe it was within a year, might have been 2 before COVID. And I think we were told then that CPI was never increased more than, I don't know if you didn't say this, but never increased more than like 4% or something. We've never seen anything like that. And the very next year it was like 8%. So I'm uncomfortable with it personally, and I prefer going the other route.
Me too.
We've not having the automatic.
Not having an automatic.
Yeah.
I prefer that we have to talk about it every year.
I do too. Yeah.
Discuss it, study it.
Yeah,
Yep.
and presenting what we should do, direction.
Yeah, one advantage to doing that is when questions come up in the community about I think you'll hear, and you probably hear it in every city you go to, we're the most expensive city on rates, right? And one advantage of doing that year after year is to be able to set the facts straight. Say, no, actually, we sit at the median, prices in all the other cities surrounding or whatever. So I love that. I think that's a great approach. And I do not have, we didn't plan on that for this budget because I just don't have those numbers right now. Chrissy was working on the study when she was interim city manager. She's passed that on to me, and I just haven't done what I needed to yet on it. But I am working on it. I will get those rates in, and then I will do a presentation for everybody and give some recommendations.
The CPI ordinance was amended last year to provide that it's either the CPI as of March or such higher or lower figure as adopted in your final budget. So, while it's automatic if you don't put anything in your budget, if you put in your budget that you're going to have a 2% increase or a 2% decrease, then that trumps that CPI provision. And that's what we did last year when we didn't do the CPI, so we brought that. So that's there as a little bit of protection.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, I feel like maybe what Bryce is alluding to is we may not necessarily have to get rid of that ordinance. But going forward, I as a manager can just come to the budget meeting and present those rate changes that I would recommend. Hear your thoughts. A couple other things I wanted to touch on the highlights. Let's see. So the CPI rate, we'll skip that portion. This budget includes a 2% increase for trash expense, and that's based on the contract we talked about in the last meeting. The idea is that just gets passed on to the residents. There's not really another good way of doing that, right? As that price increases, we pass that on straight to the residents. Currently, the budget has no salary increases for employees. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is because I would like to not tie salary increases to the budget, but rather do it later in the year. For example, like October is the month I'm thinking of. The reason why I'm thinking of doing that is because it gives us a little bit of time to look at the budget that we projected and say, okay, we're on track, therefore we can afford to give these raises that we're thinking about. It also is a very, very busy season during budget season. And I think it allows directors and supervisors to be a little bit more thoughtful about the process if we don't do it when they're all so busy. I love the idea of merit raises. In talking with some of you, it sounds like the council is kind of behind that idea. Those do take more work, and so doing it in a month like October would give us time to do that work. So currently there's nothing planned in terms of raises. That will come later on. So
That's good, yeah. Because as the department heads are actually using their budgets and getting more involved with that, that incentivizes them to, hey, with those salary increases, if they can manage their budgets well, then we can reward that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love this new structure that we have because it's going to allow the department directors to see things like overtime, right? So they'll be able to say, oh wow, like we need to cut down on overtime. If we can do that, then we'll have, X amount for these raises that I want to give to things like that. Any other thoughts on doing an October raise versus tying that straight to the budget? Okay.
I think so, right?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Sounds good. I appreciate the feedback. One thing that I wanted to touch on here is the health insurance. We saw an 8.5% increase in health insurance Christy and some of our other staff have done an awesome job at decreasing that, working with Insurica to get that decrease to 4.67%. So that's, $50,000 or so that she saved by doing that. So awesome job to Christy. And we're also working with coming up with some other creative methods like in lieu ofs and an HSA option that can decrease that even further. But that will ultimately be dependent upon how many staff members want to adopt an in lieu of and a HSA option versus the traditional insurance. So a big piece of that is going to be us educating them on why that option might fit in certain circumstances. But we're anticipating to hopefully save another $25,000 by doing that. So, capital outlay requests are detailed in the city manager's report. Right now that's at 305. I was told we have about 230, so I still have some cuts to do. And that's not even in its first draft, technically, because we will be reporting on that to you guys on the 3rd. So that's why it's still being adjusted. I think that's all I have in terms of highlights. And I'm sure I'll have some stuff to add as Meredith goes through some of these details. But ultimately, I think we're just looking for feedback today. So.
All right, so
Now we're switching to this, is that, or what's the plan?
I think they're both still kind of being used.
Mhm.
Am I wrong with that?
yes, this is the detail. This is the line item detail of what we have in here.
So are we still doing the small group sessions too, that we talked about last week?
Remind me what?
We were gonna go dive deep, I don't know how deep we're getting today, but I'm concerned we've got brand new person not here, Danette's been here before, but making sure that everyone gets the deep dive. We'd talked about doing that in small group sessions
Right.
with everybody.
Yeah, I think we talked about, what we're hoping is for the line items portion to be done and ready to go by July 1st.
Okay.
We could do deep dive in small groups with the overall summary, but in terms of the line items, it won't be ready by the time that we have to have adopted the budget. That being said, we can always do a revision later. Yeah, we got a late start on the line.
So we're not
item.
gonna do small groups at all?
We can
the
if you
training?
want, on the summary side.
I mean, and that's fine. I mean, that's what's happened previously,
Yeah, that's
but
what we did last year.
I think it's huge. Even though I've been through this cycle several times, I think it's very valuable for us to sit down and go through it. Also have some time to look through it and prepare our questions
Yeah.
as well.
Mhm.
So I just want to make sure we're not like doing something in lieu of that, I guess. was my-
I don't think so, yeah, I don't think we are. I mean, you're getting this tonight, and then we're gonna discuss it again on the 3rd, so you'll have, 2 weeks to look at this and think about questions. We could do sessions in the meantime in between those 2 weeks to talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah, that's what we did in the past.
Okay.
Especially when we have, Randy and Austin that are coming in. I mean, it's like how we were
Yeah.
last year. We just got elected and came in right into the budget. And
Yeah, right in April.
we're kind of like, okay, well, we don't even know how city government or finances work.
Mhm.
And it's not normal, is it?
No, yeah, that's
Not at
it's
all.
totally different. Yeah,
It was just 3 or 4 of us, and we just met right there at City Hall.
yeah.
Kind of went through it, it was
Yeah.
a couple hours maybe.
Russ kind of does like a little mini
History,
master class
background.
of how municipal.
That's actually what I was going to
Finance
start
works.
with, going through, because I know that I know Austin, you're new, and I know you all,
Still learning.
Yeah.
I know it's your second budget, but,
I've done several, I still like to do it. So,
So what's your guys' schedule look like? Do you have time to meet with me in small groups?
Of course.
Council?
of course, yes. Yes, it's budget season. You all know this is my favorite. I got time.
So yeah, I'll set those up. I'll reach out to you guys and set those up with Russ and Meredith and their team.
Okay, do we want to, let's start working through a little bit of some of the highlights,
Mhm.
a little bit? Okay, all right, so Nate went over the, kind of those main topics that that we used to build the budget. I do want to step back and just kind of refresh everyone on the municipal budget process, right? The state of Oklahoma gives you two options when it comes to budgeting. You can do your Municipal Budget Act, which is what we follow, or the Estimate of Needs. The Municipal Budget Act has a lot more public input, has more transparency, and as a result, gives you all some more control as far as what gets built into the budget, and keeps your public happy, I think. So we've been on the Municipal Budget Act ever since Meacham has been involved, and so this budget is actually the same presentation at the department level that was happening even for the 35 years that Earl was here. So if Earl rings any bells, he was here for a very long time and kind of used this prescribed format because that's what's set out by the Oklahoma Municipal Budget Act. So the Budget Act says basically that you have to establish a budget in a prescribed format for all of your entities, okay? The city of Perry itself has several entities. We have a general fund. Every municipality across the state has a general fund. When I think about the general fund, think about the things that don't make money that the city provides, right? We love the police department, but you cannot write enough fines and tickets to cover the cost of the officers. Same with the fire department. There's not enough fires or reimbursements from the county to cover the cost of a fire department. And we have parks, we have a cemetery, we have a swimming pool, the operations at City Hall. Those things do not write enough or generate enough revenues in order to cover their cost. Those are the types of items that fall under your general fund. You know the state law, when they set up the general fund, they said, listen, you all cannot raise rates without a vote of the people, okay? That's our sales tax, basically. And you can't extend debt more than 1 year. So if you're gonna go out and buy a police car, you either have to have all the cash on hand or you can't buy it, right? So lots of communities then felt very hamstrung by the ability to do business and to work through things. So what was created is a Title 60 trust. Those Title 60 trusts are separate legal entities that are created for the benefit of the city, okay? In Perry itself, we have a utility authority, the Perry Municipal Authority. It's a separate Title 60 trust. We have our airport fund, and this year we have a new one. It's our facilities authority, okay? Our utility, our PMA, Municipal Authority, accounts for those money-making operations. Our electric, water, sewers, and sanitation, okay? Those are the services that a city provides that we make money off of, or should make money off of. To your point, Mayor, when we get into some of this detail, you'll see our water does not cover its cost. Our sewer does not cover its cost. But ideally, those are the things that we should be able to make money off of, the operations. We can raise those rates without a vote of the people. That's the whole reason the Title 60 Trust was created. Additionally, a Title 60 Trust can extend debt more than 1 year, okay? So you've got the two constraints that the general fund have are basically relieved through your Title 60 Trust. That Title 60 Trust is created for the beneficial interest of the city itself. So it's like a perfect marriage, right? So you've got your utility authority, you've got your airport authority. Your airport authority accounts for the operations out of the airport. Hangar rent, fuel sales, right? And your facilities authority, that's our new one. That is our hospital. That is the money that the sales tax and the loans that we've generated or created to support our hospital, okay? That third section that you've got on your budget summary is our special revenue funds. These are not separate legal entities. These are separate funds that were created to track specific things separately. Either a previous council wanted to see it separately, it's required by a sales tax indenture or a bond indenture or state law somehow, okay? You all have 5. Your general cemetery fund accounts for the operations out of the cemetery. Your cemetery care fund is required under state law. It accounts for 12.5% of your cemetery lot sales. That 12.5% of cemetery lot sales can only be used to improve the cemetery, okay? You You can buy a mower with those funds that are used to mow the cemetery, okay? You cannot buy streetlights with that. You cannot pay police officers with that. You cannot pay for the swimming pool, okay? The third one is your limited purpose sales tax. That was created by the sales tax indenture, passed by the city. Your next one is your street sales tax. That was the street sales tax that was done, I don't know, 2007, something like that. You've got your 2016 bond fund, which we actually drew down all of those bond proceeds during fiscal year 24. That one's now exempt. I just didn't get the line deleted, my fault. And your last one is PIN. That is our TV. 5% of franchise taxes are restricted there and spent on PIN. So those are your special revenue funds. So when we talk about the city of Perry and what you all are responsible for, it's these funds right here. When we talk about operating, when I say in this budget that's proposed to you all tonight, you have an operating profit of a little over $200,000. I'm talking about your operating units, the ones that you have control over. Your general fund, your utility fund, your airport, and your facilities, okay? Those are your operating funds. I said facility. Your facility is not operating fund. It's only for your debt. So, okay. General fund, utility, and airport. Okay, those are your operating funds. So when we look at this budget itself, you have about a $200,000 profit that's coming from those operating funds. How did we get there? It's the bullet points that Nate talked about. Most significantly, it has the 10% haircut in your sales tax. It has the 3.7% utility rate increase, electric, water, and sewer, not trash. That generates $378,000. It does have a trash increase of 2%, which is a direct pass-through from our contract with Davis. No money generation on that. Expenses going up, revenues going up. No salary increases, but we do have a hike in our health insurance, almost 5%. Hoping to see some savings on that. And then about $300,000 of capital outlay is what's included right now. Okay, that is already built into the budget, those items, $200,000 profit as it stands right now. Let's take a look at this budget summary. I'm on page 2. Okay. When we talk about your operating budget, again, prescribed format under the Municipal Budget Act, we have a beginning balance. In most cases, equate this to cash in the bank, okay? When you all start your household budget, when you operate on a monthly basis, how much money am I starting with? What do I have in my bank account, okay? Your next column is your revenues. How much money am I bringing in? In your general fund, it's mainly through sales tax, royalties, some grants. In your utility fund, your municipal authority, it's your sale of electricity, water, sewer, and trash. Airport, it's hangar rents and your fuel and fuel sales. Facilities authority, it's the sales tax that's coming in, okay? So revenues, money that's coming in. Next column is your expenses, shown in brackets. What did I spend my money on? Okay, it's your people, it's your materials, it's all your other services and charges, it's capital outlay, and it's debt service. Okay, and we'll go through those specifically when we get over those departments. Next column is your transfers. Transfer is simply moving money between one fund and another. Okay, if I move money from my PMA, which makes money mainly through our electric system, I have to do that in order to support our police, our fire, our parks, our cemetery, those non-money making operations, right? That is shown as a transfer. We're moving $2.4 million out of the utility authority over to the general fund, a little bit into your airport authority, in order to keep those things flush, right? Net change. Net change is your profit or loss. Did I make money? Did I lose money? Okay? Brackets are bad. Brackets mean you lost money, okay? You'll see in the net change column, losing about $600,000 in our general fund, making about $900,000 in our utility authority, and losing about $142,000 in our airport. Those three items net together is our $200,000 profit, okay? And that last column, ending balance. Under the Municipal Budget Act, your ending balance has to be positive. It can be zero, but it has to be positive. You cannot adopt a budget that has a negative ending fund balance, okay? And again, think about that as cash in the bank that you're gonna carry forward to next year, okay? In total, the city's operating budget for the city of Perry, the operating unit's a little over $15.8 million, okay, expense-wise. Of that, about 40% is personal services, about 30% is our OMPA bill, and about 10% is debt service. So if we talk about the percentage of this budget that you all have control over, we're talking about 20 to 22% of the budget. Because you can't change your debt payments, those have to go. Can't change your payment to OMPA, we've got to buy that electricity. And your employees, I mean, you can get rid of employees or cut wages or whatever, but there's very little flexibility with that, right? The impact on that is very small. So when you think about this large budget that you all are responsible for, really about 20 to 22% is what you all have control over and what we can move back and forth, okay? That's your summary. Questions on those numbers, that summary, how that's working, what those entities are? Okay. All right, flipping to the next page. This is your department summary. This is a new schedule. We started implementing it last year. I don't know that you all saw it by the time we finished implementing everyone. But it takes it's the same information that you have on your summary, but it breaks it down by department so that you can see it a little bit differently. The purpose of that is if you have administrative expenses that are in general fund and in airport and in the utility authority, your municipal authority, you can see across totals and you can see that is how much our administration cost us. So at the top, it's basically flipped. Your entities are at the top, your general fund, your special revenue funds, your airport, and your enterprise. And then your revenues and expenses are down the side. Same information shown a different way. I'm not going to walk through it again unless you all have specific questions about it. Okay? All right, now here's where we get to breaking down the information. This is the same schedule that you all have seen for 35 plus years, if you were alive then. This is, again, the prescribed format that was set aside by, that's required under the Municipal Budget Act. But we did add a little bit. Nate wanted to see 2 years of history. So you have an additional year of history, which is not required. We can stick it in, easy. But that is fiscal year 21-22. That's that first column, what's actually happened during 21-22. Then you've got what actually happened in 22-23. The third column is the budget that we're currently working under. Okay, just the budget that was approved by you all and amended. The fourth column is our projections. So these projections are based off of March numbers. We take March numbers, we drop them in, we say, all right, this is what sales tax was in March. If we projected that out to the end of the year, here's how things would look. We look at expenses specifically, well, and other revenues. Were there any anomalies? Were there anything crazy or strange that happened that we won't be getting additional revenue on, or we won't see that expense again? Great example is a truck that the engine blew up, right? So that expense may show up in March, but we're not gonna have that same expense in April and May and June. So we tweak those March numbers to get a more realistic projection, and that's what shows up in that fourth column. Sorry, I'm used to saying third, but it's fourth column, all right? And then the last column is what you will actually approve. This is where the compliance factor comes in. That is our proposed budget for 24-25 for the next fiscal year, okay? You all adopt a budget at the department level. That is your compliance requirement. When the auditor comes in, they check to make sure, did you spend more at the department level than what you had budgeted, okay? So our philosophy has always been to take that a step further. You all as a council approve at the department level. We take it down one notch to the object level, okay? Object levels are set out in the Municipal Budget Act. This is governmental accounting. There are 5 object levels that we practice. Personal services, that's the cost of employing a person, not just their salary. It's their health insurance, their FICA, their Medicare, their retirement, their workers' comp, anything related to employing that individual, okay? Personal services. Second one is materials and supplies. Physical, tangible goods, okay? Pens, paper, nails, pipe, postage, anything that you can, water bottles, anything that you can touch and feel, okay? Other services and charges, things you can't touch and feel. Electricity, utilities, insurance, attorneys, our bill, all of those things that you can't touch and feel, those other services and charges that the city pays for. Number 4, debt service. Did we take out debt? Principal and interest payments on that obligation. And the last one, capital outlay. Capital outlay is anything that extends more than a year and usually costs more than $1,500. Okay? Things like vehicles. Okay? That's a capital outlay item. Things like tires, depending on how much you drive them. First of all, you can usually get them for less than $1,500. Sometimes they don't last more than a year. Not capital outlay. Okay? Think vehicles, think big projects, think water and sewer line extensions, think streets, think big things, okay? Capital outlay. Those are your 5 object levels that fall underneath your department. Again, compliance with that is not required. You will adopt on a department level. That department level is the total for your department of those 5 things. We cannot spend more than that. Okay? So, back to page 2. General fund itself. I want to just tie out some numbers for you all. General fund itself, total expenses is the easiest number to tie out. Total expenses on the general fund on your summary, $7,013,973. Go to page 5, bottom of page 5. It's page 5, isn't it? Go to page 5. Sorry, my page number's cut off. Tell me what's on page 5. No, page 6. Go to page 6. Yep, down at the bottom, in that proposed column, there's your $7,013,973. Ties right back to your summary, okay? So this detail that we're going through now is simply that, detail of what was here in your summary, okay? And based upon Nate's request, we have taken that even further, okay? So I want you to go back to page, is this 4? I know, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get it right in a second. Yep, page 4. Go back to page 4. And find that nice, fun little new set of sheets that I gave you. Okay? General fund's a bad one because it's got your transfers in it, so we're gonna skip the first one. You're gonna flip to the second one so it ties out. And you're gonna look at streets on page 4. Total expenses for streets on page 4, $505,851. Is everyone with me? Yeah?
Yep.
Coffee is? And then I want you to look on your detail. Down at the very bottom, that last column, your total, $505,851. Okay? So we have taken from the summary down to the object level, from the object level down to the line item. Okay? Now what's next? After the line item, you can break it down then by actual vendor. From vendor, take it down to invoice, and then invoice, take it down to item, okay? But this gives you an idea of how it tracks, right? We've got summary, object level, line item, okay? So you'll see when you look at this line item detail, right now I have a flat number for each that corresponds to personal services, materials and supplies to materials and supplies. That's how I've broken it out right now. I have not taken it down to line item detail, but I've given you the history. We went back to 21, 22, and that history is there, so you can see that. You're gonna have a lot of fun. I'm just telling you, it's gonna be a lot of fun to work through this.
With this, not just with the budget, but in our monthly, in the finances that we get packet, can we get this as well?
That is going to be a significant time. I mean, it's going to take extra time each month. So if that's something that you all want, we can look at doing that. For sure.
So this revenue summary, it's just this box right here is what this is.
Nope,
So-
nope, these aren't revenues, these are only expenses.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
These are only expenses. Revenues, I'm gonna show you in
Oh,
just a
okay,
second.
I'm sorry.
Yep. So Mayor, if you want the monthly financials broken down line item like this, we need to build that into Cassell itself. And then the coding of invoices would need to be line item by line item. Yep.
That's what I'd like to do. I have some ideas with Cassell on how to use my Excel to do things like that, so,
Okay.
but we can talk after.
Yeah, just an idea, because I mean, like, this is great to see and be able to see this in our meetings when we go over those financials, instead of just getting a very vague view of where we're at. Seeing this is great.
I think as a council, sometimes you can get overwhelmed with the information and get down, get caught up on the $200 expense versus actually seeing overall we're either making progress or we're not making progress kind of deal. So I think it's balancing that information for sure. So we will absolutely do whatever makes sense. Okay. Sammy, your question about revenues. Okay. 4, 5, 6, 7. Go to page 8. So we've always provided, this was something we already had, this is something you've seen every year in your budget. Sammy, it was the first time for you last year. This is your revenue breakout. So this is the same thing that we did for expenses that you've always had it here as far as what rolls up to general fund. So let's time out. General government itself, back on page 4, $2,142,447 for your proposed general fund budget. And you flip over to page 8, and your proposal, total, subtotal of your general government, $2,142,447. Broken out between, obviously the largest piece is your sales tax. You've got use, cigarette, franchise, tower rentals, donations, grants, miscellaneous, interest, everything detailed. And then that's detailed by department that ties back up to your revenue summary. Seeing the correlation? Perfect. Easy. Okay. Questions on that?
No, maybe in our next meeting, as we go over these things more, can we get when the taxes expire?
This is your unrestricted sales tax.
Right,
This
right,
does
right.
not, this does not expire.
On the other ones, like the street one,
You
and,
want to know when those?
yeah, when those expire.
When the debt, yes,
Yeah.
yes, and I've got that.
Street
I've got that.
pages 26,
Yeah.
it would be nice to keep that in
Debts.
front of us.
Work
Right.
paper.
It comes up from time to time.
That way, when we start thinking of projects down the road that maybe as a council we'd like to see happen, we know what taxes are
Gonna be-
coming up
Yeah.
that can become available.
We should probably
Flip over
plan for
to
those now,
Right.
in some cases.
Because like if there's one coming up in 2 years, now would be a good time to start having those discussions of like, okay, in 2 years, this is
Flip
what
over
we
to
want
12
to
for
do.
me.
12.
12,
1, 2, 3.
page 12. So page 12, down under the sewer department,
Mhm.
your 2015 bonds were originally 3.1 million, they expire in 2030. Your 2018 bonds 1 million, and I don't have the date on that one. I will add that. And then page, are you all seeing what I'm seeing?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, then flip to the next page.
That detail's new, though, isn't it? I don't
Yep.
recall that.
That's always done.
And then next page, under Water Department, your 2017 bonds. That's cut off, but it's FY30. Yep. So that is, those are there, and then I don't have your PFA down, but I can get that added for sure.
Mayor, were you talking more the sales tax side, like the side we have for specific things like?
Yeah, sales tax and those bonds, I mean, just, yeah.
Just a list of things
Yeah.
that are gonna expire.
So the sales tax is pledged to the bonds, and then so when the bonds are paid off, the sales tax expires. They're correlated.
There's a couple pages that address that in every year's audit. So why don't you just pull those pages out and send those to everyone?
And if I had my,
Because they're in the audit.
yes, it's reported every year in the footnotes, page 35. And in fact,
Were you talking?
if you all will talk amongst yourselves, I can get it.
It's not just the road season?
Page 35.
I didn't know if it was your
Nope.
I just meant regularly, but it's not like seeing this. At least when you do the budget, it'd be nice to know when those bonds and yeah, taxes are coming up.
Yes, yes, and we've got it, and we can add,
Right, and planning for strategic planning, those kind of things.
here's a draft. Because I do it on a debt work paper. It's also in your audit, and if I can talk amongst yourselves, I'm there. I'm amongst them. I am. I promise.
Maybe it might have been overwhelming for previous councils, but I think this council, I would like more
seeing the
information.
details,
Yeah, I like
yeah.
seeing details.
Okay,
It's
you ready?
just helpful.
Yeah.
2016, original note proceeds of $4.3 million, has a 2.4% interest rate maturing in January of 2028. The 2000, and again, these are on
Which one's that one?
Here's your 2016 PMA. It was streets, limited purpose sales tax streets.
No, it's not.
Sorry, I'm using an old,
Oh, that's the sewer department on page 12.
the sewer's in 2015. Yep.
So she's in 2020.
I can list these out for you all. Again, I don't have just don't have the access to my.
Yeah, next meeting,
Yeah.
next time we go over the budget, yeah.
Okay,
Just that kind of stuff I think would be handy.
yes, yes, and that's easy. That's easy. Okay, all right, so that's the structure of the budget. Let's get into some details. Page 4. Starting with revenues on our proposal, we're proposing $3.6 million of revenue. Our projected actual is 6.2 from this fiscal year. So the question is, obviously, Meredith, why? Why such a significant decrease? Three main things. Number one, the hospital sales tax was previously shown as revenue in your general fund and then transferred out to your hospital. Now that there is the facilities authority, that sales tax is reported in your facilities authority. You see that on your summary sheet. A little over $600,000 in sales tax revenue there. You also had ARPA and grant funds coming through on your projected for fiscal year 23-24. Those are the two main differences. One other piece, wish I could get access to it, was, going the opposite direction is $140,000 of ditch witch reimbursement for the officers out there. So that took a swing the other way. But we've got that, again, those are detailed out on, your revenues are detailed out on page 8 specifically. You can see PFA, the sales tax restricted hospital, projected at 671, 0. State grants, 1.6 million, 0 currently. Royalties went down about, are projected to go down about $80,000. And then of course our sales tax and our other recurring taxes, $164,000. Yeah, if you'll keep 4 and 8 kind of beside each other, I think that's easy. Street tax, or sorry, street revenues, next line item, $33,000, consisting mainly of our motor vehicle tax and our gas excise tax. You all know that gas excise tax is withheld until the audit is filed. And those are budgeted at 90% for a little over $33,000. Parks is next, $40,000 through rentals and permits. Swimming pool, $8,000, projected at $776. That's because seasonality of that, so when we project that one, it doesn't look like there's gonna be much coming in, but if you look historically, it's $10,000 in '22, $11,000 in '23, so $8,000 should be good. Okay. Library, $9,250. State grants being the largest portion of that. Economic development, our hotel motel tax, $193,000 projected at $215. Again, a 90% haircut. If you look historically, we're at $232, $217, so kind of consistent along those numbers. Ballparks, $83,000 expected through entry fees and concessions. Again, looks high compared to our projections. That's actually 90% of our actual from '23. Again, seasonality with this. Most of those tournaments are happening this time of year, so you haven't seen that revenue when we ran numbers in March. Municipal court, $17,400. E911 fees, $136,000. Police is where you see a jump. Down there at the bottom, the officer reimbursement, SRO and our Ditch Witch, thank you, sorry. Ditch Witch reimbursement, $194,000 through that, $95,000 in court and police fines, up a little bit from what we've projected. Normally I try to project revenues conservatively. This one I'm hoping they're gonna bring in what they brought in. Because it has been kind of a decline from the 22 and 23 years. So hoping to see, not for me personally, I don't want the tickets. Okay, code enforcement, $6,600, in line with projections. Animal control, $1,500. Fire, their annual state grant, $9,994. And then ambulance, last one on revenues. Ambulance runs at 90%, the county sales tax at 90%, and then the fee that goes on the utility bill. That gets us to $3.6 million in revenues projected for the general fund. Thoughts, concerns, questions, something you all want me to look into?
Eventually.
Yes, yes, right. But nothing off the top of your head. Okay. All right, expenses. Set that aside. Let's go back to page 4. General government, basically what happens at City Hall. That includes expenses here, things like that. You've got your personal services, which is the employing of people. We do have a salary schedule. That is, we usually talk about that in the individual sessions. Of course, employee rates are public record, but what's not public record is their health insurance and their retirement and things like that. So those are all protected. So we don't put that out in a public meeting. So that's the cost of the employees allocated to personal services, allocated to the general government. Materials and supplies, budgeted consistent with what we're projecting. Other services and charges, $650,000. We did have our projections for this year a little bit high, and you can see that on your detail breakout that we did. Projections, you can see almost $100,000 in engineering, which was up a little bit, and then almost $100,000 in contractual services. So that's the reason those are projecting a little bit high. We think that will come back down to the 650, consistent with what it was in 22 and 23. Capital outlay, Nate's got that on his list. I didn't even, when I put it on, I just put Nate's list because I figured he wants to talk through that. Do you want to talk through those now?
No, next week, or next meeting.
Okay. So total budget for general government, $1.1 million, down from projections this year. I think we've kind of talked about mainly in that other services and charges, and then lower than our projections for, or than our actual in 22 and 23. Street department, a little over $500,000, $505,000 in proposed. 333 of that is in our personal services, consistent with what we actually spent in 22 and 23, down a little bit from 24, or projections for 24. Materials and supplies at $58,000, other services and charges at 10, and then capital outlay, one of the largest components there, and one of the highest departments for capital outlay, a little over $103,000. Parks and Recs, $285,000, up a little bit based upon personal services, and then about $30,000 of capital outlay, which Nate will go through. But otherwise budgeted consistent with what we actually spent in 22, a little bit lower than our 23 numbers, and then a little bit higher than what we've projected for this year, mainly because of that capital outlay.
Are we buying another mower?
We have to wait and see.
Have to wait and see. All right, page 5. Swimming pool looks different this year. This is based upon the contract with YMCA. $45,000 is the budget right now. I think that contract is on the agenda for approval tonight.
Yep.
Today. Yeah.
Oh, I forget we're in a council meeting, aren't we? What time is it? It's 7:27. Okay. Is this helpful to go through these? Okay.
It is.
Keep moving. Okay. So that looks a little different. Those numbers came from contract. Okay. Library itself, library is unique in that in order to keep your state aid, you have to budget. You cannot budget less than what you budgeted last year. So we keep those numbers fairly consistent. Personal services are up a little bit based upon healthcare cost. Materials and supplies, consistent with what we budgeted this year. Pam's really good about keeping within her budget. Even though she's projected to be a little bit over in these line items, her total is below her projection. So Pam is one department that I do not worry about. $15,000 of capital outlay there for the library. Economic development, I have budgeted consistent with our Main Street contract, our chamber contract, our museum contract. I feel like those always come up for discussion. You all are interested in looking at those. They're outlined separately here so that you can see them and know that what we have budgeted for them. $80,000 for that department. Ballparks, numbers look a little high compared to budget based upon the seasonality of what happens out there, right? They have not, they haven't had their busy part of this fiscal year. We will see that coming. So $67,000 in their materials, $35,000 for their services and charges. Their debt service is consistent, and then $1,000 for capital outlay. Municipal court, $93,000 in personal services, $1,500 in materials and supplies, and $2,500 in other services and charges for a total of $119,000. Police, $1.3 million in our personal services, $50,000 in our materials, $135,000 in our other services and charges, and $38,000 in capital outlay. Their budget is a little bit higher than what it has been. That's because of our increase in help. We have that. And a little bit of capital outlay, $38,000 in capital outlay. And again, just a reminder, no salary increases are included in this budget. The factors that are impacting your personal services are health insurance and retirement. Those are the changes. Everyone's employee rate is the same. Oh, and overtime. So we project overtime based upon what actually happened. So again, it's a projection of what happened through March, and we take that out and project it. So E911, total budget of $417,000. Again, I know this is a contract that we're working on negotiating. This is budgeted based upon the personnel that we have, and then what our AT&T bill is, basically. Code enforcement, $217,000. Main component of that is our personal services. And then a little bit, those other services and charges include a little bit of money for demolition or the work towards that. So that's the reason the projection number, it does not look as high, just based upon the number of those that have gone through. Animal control, $80,000. $72,000 of it is sitting in personal services, a little bit for their dog food and things like that, and then some other services and charges, which is the allocation of insurance and things. Fire department, $598,000. $431,000 of that is from personal services, $60,000 in materials and supplies, $70,000 in other services and charges. Both of those are driven by what they've projected for this year. And then $36,000 in capital outlay. Ambulance, a little over $1 million in personal services, which is the main piece of their budget. And then some materials and supplies and other services and charges for $1.1 million. That gets you to your total expenses of a little over $7 million. Again, a little bit higher than our projection for this year, which is 6.5. Driving components, you'll see personal services, and then just a couple little things as far as what we're expecting through CPI. Okay, questions on kind of those expenses? Okay, that next page, page 7, these are the transfers that we talked about, okay? Proposed in the budget, we're going to bring over $2.7 million from our municipal authority, okay? That will still leave us with a net change of $614,000 loss. So we're going to start the year out with a little over $2.1 million. We're going to lose $614,000. That'll leave us with about $1.5 million in the bank at the end of the year, if things go as planned. Thoughts? Comments? Moving on. Okay. 8, 9, and 10. Those are the revenue details. Okay. Again, those go back and support those revenue summaries that we discussed earlier. 11, usually this has your projects on it. This is where you would go. And Nate's working on all that June 3rd meeting. So right now it just says Nate's list, okay? But that's how they lay out by department. So $265,000 proposed. You can see it's broken out by admin, clerk's office, IT, street, parks, all the rest. Okay. 11, I think we're on 12. Find your page numbers. Yep, 12. Okay, PMA, our money making. This is our money maker. This is how we afford to have our police, our streets, our fire, our ambulance, all the good stuff. Okay, same format that you've seen. Revenues at the top, electric sales, and then what's added underneath is the utility rate increase, 3.7% based upon CPI for the Southwest region as of March, for populations less than 250,000. That's how it breaks it up. So you can see electric with the 3.7 increase and 3.7 CPI, about $300,000 in electric, $52,000 in water, $26,000 in sewer, nothing in trash. Okay, that's how we built it. The drainage fee is in there. It's $3 per meter. It's going to generate, let me see that line, about $80,000. Late payment penalties, about $100,000. Then we've got some other $65,000. That's kind of miscellaneous copies. That's some reimbursement kind of stuff, just some miscellaneous stuff that comes through. And then the ambulance fee, $96,757. You'll see that same number over in the general fund because it gets transferred over there, okay, to support that, the operations in the general fund, because that's where ambulance is budgeted. Austin, you're loving this, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, so a total of a little over $12.2 million in our proposed budget for the fiscal year. That compares to about 13.8 from our projected. You'll see up there in electric, I haircut electric about 2%. Again, don't know if it's going to be a super hot summer next year. Those kinds of things we can't control. People can choose to turn their air conditioners up to 80 and then we're not selling in as much electricity. And so anyway, just to kind of give us a little bit of a conservative projection on revenues. Otherwise, that 12.2 compares pretty closely to the 12.3 that we had in 22. 23 was up a little bit based upon ARPA dollars that came through and Malzahn grant, that was up to 15.2. But you'll see revenue-wise, as far as what we control, our electric, water, sewer, and trash, those revenues are fairly consistent throughout. So the departments in PMA, we've got admin, electric, sewer, garbage, water, and drainage. Drainage is new this year. I thought that would be fun to add, so you all can see that broken up. So same format as far as object levels. We're talking about those same 5 guys. What it costs people, tangible physical goods, anything you can't see or, anything you can't touch, debt service, and capital outlay. Okay, same concepts. Personal services, $223,000. You'll see this when you all study this at home. Admin people, and this was implemented probably 4, maybe 5 city managers ago. We kind of split how they're allocated between general fund and PMA. It's the same people, and we sometimes put 20% over in general fund and the remaining 80% in PMA. So in total, when I look at this department, personal services, I usually add those 2 together to get to the right number. Because it will just kind of depend upon who's spending hours in what and how their time's been allocated. Were they working on water, sewer, trash, customer service kinds of things? Or were they working on police, city hall, that sort of stuff, okay? So when you see fluctuations in that, don't get overly concerned. And then other services and charges in there, $32,000 for a total of $256,000. Electric department, your largest piece, $4.6 million that we pay OMPA to get our electricity here. That is about 57.5% margin on our electric. No percentage of our electric, don't say margin, because then you all think that's profit margin, and that's not how that's calculated. That number is down below, which we'll look at in just a second. You've got your people there, you've got your materials, wire and lines and whatever it takes for Brian to get his stuff done. Other services and charges, $175,000, allocation of his overhead, insurance, that sort of stuff. Total department cost of $5.4 million. Sewer department, $808,000. $327,000 of that is sitting in our personal services. Our 2 big component pieces are our 2015 bonds and our 2018 bonds. I will have that, the debt service broken out for you. We do a debt to maturity schedule, it's in the audit, all of that. I will bring a copy of that sheet for the June meeting. I should have had it today, I'm sorry. $808,000, which is a little bit more than what we budgeted for this year. It's down from last year based upon our capital outlay. Garbage, the only thing we pay in there is the Davis sanitation contract. It's got a 2% increase on it, consistent with the contract. $549,000 there. Page 13, water department. We pay people and we pay debt out of water department, basically. Not a lot in there as far as line repairs and things like that, $300,000 for those materials, $150,000 for his allocation there. Got your 2001 OWRB loan and your 2017 bond. And then a little bit of capital outlay, which I cannot remember what it was, a little over $19,000, for a total of $1.7 million in your water department. I broke out drainage this year, $80,000 spent in drainage. I equaled that to what our drainage fee brings in. You all can add more to that. You all see the monthly financials every month. There's a little bit more money in there than that $80,000 if you choose to budget it there. But that number right now equals what we brought in. Okay. That gives you total expenses of almost $8.9 million in your PMA. So a net profit, operating profit just from your operations of $3.3 million, rounded up to 3.4. 3.3, almost $3.4 million made from your operations. 2.7 of that has to go over to your general fund to support things that don't make money. Okay? So when you think about how you make money in a city, or how you keep things like police and fire and cemetery, and parks, and all of these things, you make your money through your utilities. That's where you have to generate your profit in order to cover those things that don't. Okay? Operating income of 3.3, almost $3.4 million. The energy office, that's what comes from our CUPS grant. All those little things that get sent out, marketing tools, all of that stuff comes out of that department. And then our transfers. 2.7 goes over to, almost 2.8 goes over to your general fund. 30,000 over to your pen. $155,000 to your cemetery, and then your $96,000 over to the ambulance department in your general fund. So you make 3.4, you transfer out 3 million. Okay. Once we take into account our transfer in from our sales tax, $600,000 there, net operating income of a little over $961,000. Sounds good. Until you remember that you're losing over $600,000 in your general fund. So just think through that. When we talk about those operating entities, operating profit of a little over $200,000, okay? All right, questions on general fund?
I have a question.
I'm sorry,
on that.
I said general fund, I meant
on-
PMA. Nope,
yeah,
go ahead.
PMA. Have we ever figured out, 'cause I'm thinking the way I think about hotels, do we ever come up with what the average revenue would be for like our residential utility rates? Like if we have this many meters and we're bringing in this much, like if we added X amount of houses into Perry, this would generate about this much revenue.
I've never done that calculation. Russ may have, but I have never done that calculation. I think we'd have to use some assumption parameters, right?
Right.
What, a 2,000 square foot house, 1,500 square foot house?
Right.
How many people are in that home as far as?
Right. Or even if we just took how many meters we have, in Perry hooked up to us and how much we're bringing in for our residential. Then as city council, if we decided, in our strategic planning, if we wanted to focus on housing and we wanted to bring in 50 homes into Perry in the next 2 or 3 years, we can kind of look at our budgeting and kind of be like, well, if we accomplish that, we'll be bringing in X amount of revenues or something like that.
Just have to know how much per home.
Right.
Yeah, Autumn, I know
Kind of
Autumn
just what the
has.
average is.
Yeah.
So we have got, not to the level necessarily that you're talking about, but when
Right.
we're talking about new additions, we have done that exercise to a certain extent
Right.
to weigh against the cost of putting in those additions.
Right.
So we also have to factor in that
Right.
number as well. What are those 50 gonna cost us to put in or whatever those numbers are?
Right.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm doing exactly that for the Cottage Edition calculations.
Oh, okay.
To see what do we want to, what are we gonna give back to them? And then I'm looking, well, how much are we gonna get in electricity and water?
Right.
I looked at the average square home or square foot of those homes versus, I think we pulled 3 or 4 different averages from town
Right.
for the same square footage on homes.
Mhm.
And so I'm doing that calculation to see.
Oh, okay.
Which I think is the only way to have, but I think to your point, as a planning, like, to get to this goal, how many do we have to add, or
Right.
or how many do we need to go out and reach for?
Yeah, going even more
To
general.
make a difference.
Right.
Right.
Instead of looking at a specific project, looking at a
Right.
How many
strategic
channels?
plan.
Right, because then as we're doing these budgets and we're working on strategic plan and using those two together, we can be better educated on our end of like, okay, this is the direction we want to go. Is it realistic? What would it take? What areas do we need to focus on to get that? I like numbers. I have a lot of data coming in that can dump
Yeah, I
it on
totally
me. I'll
agree.
take it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And it's something we could totally do.
Right.
Do you know off the top of your head how many residential meters we have?
Last time I think it was around just under 2,000.
Under 2,000? Okay, okay.
That might
So-
be total though.
Commercial and residential.
And like when we do those budget retreats, like in the future, like that kind of stuff, I think would be interesting to know or to look at. Because then when we include those budget retreats and strategic planning sessions, that information is useful.
I'm gonna say it's probably less than 2,000, so.
Right, commercial.
I was gonna say 16 or 1,700.
So, just going, I've got fiscal year '23, residential electric revenue,
Mhm.
a little over $2.8 million. So $2.8 million divided by,
Is it like 2,000? 1,500?
divided by 1,800,
Mhm.
divided by 12, is about $130 a month. I mean, that's just quick,
Mhm.
like, and that was using 1,800 meters, so. There you
We
go.
added a bunch we added several, not a bunch, after we looked at the first, I can't remember
Yeah, the first initial.
You're saying so we're making about $130 a home?
Not making, that's what,
That's what it's bringing in.
that is what it's
Profit.
bringing in, that is not all profit though.
No, right, but that's,
Yes, that was quick and dirty, I mean,
But then the next step would be to say, what do we profit, right?
right.
which we've got profit margins right here, we make a 34% profit on our electric, that's on page 14, that's on page 14.
But
which
on
is
the
where we're
revenue
going
side,
next.
that's what one home would be bringing in.
So that 134 multiplied by 30%.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's quick and dirty.
Right.
But they can, someone can get you more granular. Okay, 14. This is the profit margin page. This is where I think it makes the most sense for you all. And I just want to make sure that you understand this page because it's important. This is your gross profit by department. So it's a summary of everything above it. It excludes capital outlay. Okay, so electric revenues, 8.2 million, expenses, 5.4 million. Our gross profit on that is $2.8 million. That's about a 34.3% profit margin. Okay, we are making money proposed in our electric department. Water, we're losing $406,000. It's a 30% loss. Sewer, losing $125,000, 18%. Garbage, making $266,000, 32% margin. Net gross profit, $2.5 million, okay? And we've talked that we are moving over $3 million to other funds to keep those afloat.
Is the sales tax for the water, is that showing up there under revenue?
It's not in your profit margins.
But so when you look at expenses, I mean, is the debt payment in the expense side in that number?
Yes.
So you need to throw that sales tax against it, the 1 1/4 sales tax, against it, but, it's probably not fair to do that. It's still losing money, but so that does, but you can't depend on that. That's why Russ is talking about taking those sales tax back to the function of government and not tie them to utilities. Use your utilities to do your utilities. But I just wanted to, in looking at that, if part of that expense is that debt service, then there is a sales tax there, but it's still, and it may not be operating in a loss except for without that sales tax. Still not healthy.
I'm taking my time, dude. All right.
Has the water and the sewer always been at a deficit,
We have always relied on our electorate to provide the most significant portion of our profit. This community has.
right? We've never tried to balance those other.
There was discussion to balance one time that I was a part of, and that became a very frustrating process because it came back to the age-old question. Do you apply that consistently across the board? Or do you apply an increase consistently across the board so the little old woman is paying the same as a big corporation? Or do you apply it on a graduated level, which the more you use, the more it costs, and then you make your businesses fat? So, and that council never got off high center on that.
Was Earl involved in this? I figured. Sounds like an Earl project.
And he loved every part of it, you know that. Yep. Yeah, but yes, he would come down even after he retired and like to, mix it up, see what that works. So. Okay, airport fund. Airport fund. Hangar rentals, this one's fairly straightforward. Fuel sales. $98,000 in revenues. And then as far as expenses, the cost of the people, the cost of the gas, 15% margin there. And then materials and supplies, $36,000 in capital. Total of $240,000. Net loss of $142,000. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
16.
Thank you. 16. Okay, questions on airport?
Meredith, a general question, what % of our revenues comes from sales tax versus everything else, electric, water? Do you have any idea on that?
Not off the top of my head, but I can calculate it. Let me think of the quickest way to do that. This is when I need a work session. So I can have someone here that's calculating this well.
You've been awesome, we put you on the spot.
2, 1.3,
Keep Braden with you.
exactly. Braden's home with a kid. Is that him? Can I say that?
While she's calculating, before we get too far off of since Scott's been on, he's been talking about water and sewer and balancing those, and it is an exercise I think worth discussing again.
We're pursuing and taking a look at it. Yes.
Yeah, that's part of that water sewer rates that we started.
Yeah, so there's really 3 things that would go into, well, 2 major things that would go into a rate change, right? You'd look at surrounding cities, say, where do we fit and compared to Stillwater and Blackwell and all these other cities. And then the second part would be, well, how much are we making versus how much are we spending?
All right, well, don't quote me on this, because this is very quick. But roundabout, again, everything with a little bit of grace tonight. PMA, about $11 million in electric, water, sewer, and garbage revenues, okay? Sales tax, actually this is all taxes, so this would be sales, use, and everything, about 3.1 million. Let me verify that with one other quick look. Someone's gonna,
Can't say next meeting. I'll have that for you next meeting. That'd be fine.
So it's about 28% taxes versus utility rates.
I can't check that right now, I'm trying to look this up. But I trust your math. Hold on, let me verify. Because this has just sales tax, so I can actually tell you just sales tax. This spreadsheet that I keep right here. 3.1 million. Booyah.
Nice. No, but yeah, so 28%.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, thank you.
More stuff to check.
Maybe, but not right now.
All right, that was 16. That's the airport. So let quickly, airport itself. Oh no, we went through it. I'll remember you guys. Okay. They'll end up with about $25,000 in the bank. Next page is capital expenditures, $36,000. Nate's got that on his list. We will go through that with you. Cemetery. We are on 18, page 18. Lot sales, about $5,000. Internments, $12,000. Cost $138,000 to have the individuals out there. And then all their fuel for mowing and all of that, insurance allocation, $162,000. In order to keep this thing flush, we have to bring in $155,000 from the PMA. Leaves us with about a $10,000 profit. Questions on that? Okay. Cemetery care, this is our 12.5% required by state law to segregate and set aside. I don't have any expenses budgeted out in here. This money has just been accumulating. If you wanted to buy a mower, it would be good to designate that mower for the cemetery use, so you could use these funds.
Scott, would you be okay with that?
If it's justified.
Everybody needs a mower.
Everybody. I mean, everybody.
All right, I think we're to 20. This is these you all have virtually no control over. This is the limited purpose sales tax. It is your 2006 bonds. 1.25% of sales tax comes in here for water improvements, and we pay a debt payment with it. There is money that accumulates in there. Once that debt's paid off, the restrictions release on that. Street sales tax, same thing, 1%. It's used for street tax improvements. It's used to pay the debt on street tax improvements. We do not have any excess money to pay for street improvements. I want to be clear. And there you go. Next one is the bond fund. This is the one that I did not get deleted out. It does still have some history, which is why it's here. We pulled the rest of those bond funds out. I think it was a little around $208,000 is what it ended up being, that to reimburse ourselves from some expenses. So that is now done. The proceeds from that are now eliminated. That's how I should say that. Then we've got PEN. Is our Perry Information Network that people are loving this on television right now. Franchise tax is restricted there to be used on PEN. There's the cost of employing the individuals in that department, and then a little bit of their overhead cost basically internet cost. Bring in $30,000 to keep that flush, and a loss of $20,000. And then the last one, our new one, Facilities Authority. This is the entity that was created to fund the hospital. Sales tax comes in here, the hospital sales tax comes in, and it goes out to fund the hospital. This is also where the loans are. And that is an overview of your 24-25 budget.
Good job there. You got through that.
I do have some notes for myself. Average electric rate for a residential home, just to get what that would cost. The debt service detail, I will get that out of the audit report that you all will have. And so that you have that and know when those exact maturity dates are. Those are the only two notes that I wrote down for myself, unless I missed something.
I suppose you put that 3.7% rate increase in this budget, right?
I did.
So if you don't have that, which one of the numbers on page 2 change? Is it the ending balance goes down by?
The revenue number, is this page 2? Yeah, okay. The revenue number decreases, the net change decreases, and then your ending balance also decreases.
And so what was 3.7?
$378,000.
370, so that number
Thanks
would
for-
go to 1.1.
Well, I think the best way to look at that,
Yeah.
Bryce, is in your operating profit. What we're showing right now is a $200,000 operating profit. You take that CPI out, and you've got a $178,000 loss.
You know, on the utility side.
No, that's
All together.
operating profit for all
Yeah.
3 of our operating entities.
Okay.
$178,000 loss.
And that number, that $178,000 loss includes capital outlays.
$300,000 of capital outlay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
It's a 307,992, right?
What is
The
307?
capital outlay.
Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Is that where we're
Actually,
at?
you told me that you
Yeah.
changed it
It's
today.
it's fluctuating.
I think you said 305 or something, just, but
Right.
That's the latest. This
Okay.
was before some
Okay.
adjustments in. And it'll adjust before June 30th.
Okay, anything else that you all know that you want me to bring back or have ready for council sessions?
So this is not the complete list of drill down stuff, right?
No,
Okay,
no, yeah, this
It's
is.
just the general fund?
okay, that's what I was.
I didn't make it all the way.
I was looking for water in here, but
Oh.
I didn't see it.
General
we
fund,
will.
Sorry.
Okay.
They've been a little bit busy.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if this was
Yeah.
going to be it or is there more?
No, I'm impressed that you got
Yeah,
this.
that's
I mean,
Me
Yeah.
too.
that's great. I look forward to
And
it.
July 1st
All
is
of
the
it.
date they're going for to have everything finished on it.
Good.
And I
It's
don't
not that we
know-
can't do it, we just didn't want it.
and I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this way, but to understand the budget and what you went through is very important for how decisions are made. But trying to think, me personally, I don't know that, I think I'd get overwhelmed with information. And for us as a council to continue to work on that strategic plan, sorry, get that out, and get that accomplished with a good staff in place that understands where we want to go. We just need to understand what this says to be able to understand what they're telling us that we're doing, or that is happening. And some of this, I think we get bogged down. We've got bogged down here in the recent past, as to wanting to know every single thing. But I think as staff understands what we want to see, they can gather all that information and tell us what it is, rather than having to go through it every other week, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm the only one that feels like I don't want to see it all the time, but I think we have a competent person at the helm to be able to navigate what we want to see in the future.
Right, I think that's a good point. I think for me, I would like to at least just have it available, because I would like to see it.
Right, and I like the explanation of, you
Yeah.
know, this is a loss and this is why.
Right.
Here's a list of why it's a loss.
Right.
So, I mean, I do
And I-
appreciate
yeah, and
both.
I
Now, I don't
think-
want it every single time, like you're saying.
Yeah, I
But
think
I mean, I just appreciate that
it ought to be
budget.
available.
Mhm.
And as we go through separate departments, I think it would be maybe something at that time, but I don't want to see it. I don't want to see everything every time. If we're going to make a decision on the streets department, yeah, I would like to see some of those rundowns, but I don't need to see, if we're not even talking about all the other departments, I don't even want to see that. It's too much information.
Well, I would like to say that I was able to follow you tonight. And maybe it's because I went through the budget last year and didn't know anything, but it really helped me tonight to follow through. Although in the major things, the finances, I'll leave it to y'all that know about finances. But I did feel like I understood that tonight, everything that you were saying, and I appreciate that. I mean, I really am smart. I'm just getting old.
Well, and I think, and with what I was saying, I think transparency has been apparently communicated to
Yeah.
Nate, that everybody wants to know what's going on. So he's wise enough to give us the information that he feels like everybody wants to know when we're making the decision, not just say, that's this number and this number. We get some explanation of how we got to what decision we're making. They've already done the work, so we don't have to, so to speak.
Yeah, I think, Joe, it sounds like what you're saying is traditionally councils will approve a budget, and then as long as the manager is sticking within that budget, they don't need to know all the details behind that.
Well, I think along the way, I think there may be some things that we will want to maybe walk through that decision process with you. I mean, not that maybe we do or maybe we don't change that, but at least I don't have to sit here and look at all the information at once. You just maybe bring it to us to say, you're following the budget, but when you make a major decision on purchase of something or whatever, you just give us the background of how you got there.
Yeah, I got you.
Don't just go, I won't throw anything under the bus, but anyway. Don't want to just a wild hair thing come out, and I don't feel like you're going to be that way. That's why I'm saying I think we can, with our strategic plan, you understand where we're going.
Well, I appreciate the vote of confidence.
All right. Any other questions for Meredith?
Thanks for all your work.
Yeah.
I'm ready. You
Good
think
job.
you're ready.
That was very thorough and very.
That was very good.
It was did a very good job. It was easy to follow. All right. Well, we've given you guys some direction and move on to item number 9. Yeah. Okay. Consider approval of resolution number 2024-03 of the City Council of the City of Perry, Oklahoma, declaring the eligibility and authorizing the submission of an application to the Oklahoma Department of Transportation for use of Transportation Alternative Program funds set forth by IIJA for the 7th Street Pedestrian Improvements Project in the City of Perry, and authorizing the mayor to sign and submit the application.
So moved.
Do you want to, the resolution says 12%, the agenda item says 15%. Do we have a, what percent local match?
Robert has told me 12
Is
is
that
what he
what he said?
recommend. Yep.
Okay, so if approved, it'll be at the 12% match.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was different, I want to make sure that the minutes reflect it.
I appreciate you bringing that.
Motion to approve resolution with 12% match.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Okay, Coffee. Coffee.
Yes.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Good morning.
Davis.
Yes.
Need some coffee.
Goldar.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Wortham.
Yes. All right. Item 10, consider approval of pool lifeguard services agreement with the Noble County Family YMCA.
Yeah, so let me give just an overview on this. We've been working with the Y to run our pool during the summer season. Some of the high-end summary items of this is we would give the Y $30,000. They would be in charge of all of the lifeguards, hiring, firing, training, the day-to-day management side of things. The city will keep all admissions, will keep all concessions, and they will man both of those, so the admission and concession side of things. And yeah, I think it'll be really good. They're going to be open an extra day, so they'll be open Sundays as well. So we'll provide more time for the community to use the pool. Additionally, the Y has some programs they'll run out of it in terms of activities, nutritional things, swimming lessons, things like that. So I think it's going to be a win-win. This obviously would be the first year that we do it, so we'll reevaluate next year and say, how much did we bring in admissions and concessions? Did that offset our costs enough? I mean, the pools, we lose money on the pool every year. That's just how pools are. As Meredith was talking about, we subsidize that with electric and some of the other revenues we bring in. But we're excited about this. I think it'll be good for the community, I think it'll be good for the city, and I think it'll be good for the Y. So,
Where does this 30,000, is it in line with our personnel costs? from
yes.
Previous years?
Yes, it's a little higher due to the, it's a little bit higher due to the extra day of operation. But it's in line with it.
Which should be compensated by more admissions.
That's the hope.
Yeah, okay.
And chemical still stays with us,
With
right?
us.
Yeah.
We're still on chemicals, yep.
But they will apply the chemicals, or do we apply the chemicals?
We will apply them, they'll check them at the 2-hour basis or whatever that increment is. But yes, we will apply, buy, purchase, and maintain chemicals.
It's a great partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was my question was, where did that 30,000 fit in our budget? Well, we already seen where that was, so I think it's a great plan.
I make a motion that we approve the lifeguard services agreement with the Noble County Family YMCA.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second.
And Coffee.
Yes.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Goldar. Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Wortham.
Yes. All right. Item 11, consider approval of application for payment number 11 to Wynn Construction Company Incorporated in the amount of $412,913.62.
I didn't. Oh, no.
As final payment and acceptance of the project provided, it has been built in accordance with the plans and specifications, commencement of the maintenance bond upon payment and acceptance.
So this one predates me. I've been told it was for the generators and things like that. That's what that company did for us. And this is the final payment to them.
It's that final payment to Wynn Construction.
And it's just a little bit above my authorization limit.
Just a
Tad.
smidge.
Just barely.
Are they I guess everything is finished with that?
For wind construction side of it, yes.
Okay. I was just, my question was with all the, make sure, the follow-up on all the driveways and yards and things that we went through to
If
make
there's
sure that
any
the back
issues,
bill
we
was moved.
just have to call them,
Okay.
because they're still guaranteed.
And there's a maintenance bond in place, and the maintenance bond is in the amount of the original construction costs. So there's a whole lot of money there. If it doesn't hold up, we can go back against the maintenance bond.
And that's how long maintenance bond lasts?
I'm sorry.
What duration of maintenance bond?
I believe this one's 2 years. All the ones that I've done are two-year bond.
Upon completion.
Yes, upon acceptance, and that's why I have that language here. Acceptance is only if you've done it in accordance with the plans and specs, so I leave a little caveat there in case we find that there's something that's not done within the scope of the plans and specs. At that point, the performance bond is still effective, so I'm trying to keep all those monies and those bonds active if we find a whoops. Yeah, but
And that's why
we don't think
Bryce
so.
won the greatest
Yeah,
ever
that's why.
attorney
Yeah, that's
award.
why I won the Oscar for oldest municipal lawyer. Yeah.
We still live in Portsmouth.
Huh?
We still live in Portsmouth.
Yes. Well, that's good.
I make a motion to approve the final payment for wind construction.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right.
Coffee,
Yes.
Bledsoe,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Wortham.
Yes. All right, item 12, new business? Nope. Item 13, consider convening into executive session for the purpose of discussing negotiations with representatives of employee groups, namely Perry Lodge 137 Fraternal Order of Police and Local 4242 Perry Professional Firefighters.
And I'm hoping to talk to them and pushing this to October as well. So I don't know, I really don't have anything to talk about for this.
Oh,
So if you want to skip executive session.
Motion to adjourn.
that is the last item, yep. Awesome. All right, whenever you're ready, Christie.
No actions. Okay, let's scroll down a ways. Okay, I'm ready for adjournment.
All right, that's what it was. We had Derek and then.
Oh, see, I didn't get that far. I was still making my notes up there. Who was the second?
You need a copy. I'd second it.
Oh, I would love one right now. I'm about to freeze to death. Coffee,
Yes.
Bledsoe,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Wortham.
Yes.
I'm always cold, guys.